Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hello and welcome to this side of the gate. It is going to be a lovely stroll on this side. We are in good company. I have a very, just somebody who's just dear to me, I'll tell you. Now, let me tell you a little bit about him. He is from Iowa. He is a psychic medium. He is an author of many books, let me tell you. He is an educator, a father of 3, and a husband for 21 years. He is just so full of light, good information. He's always been there when I called, and I'll tell you, he is one of my favorite links in my paranormal chain of help. If I've ever had a question or had someone who needed a little guidance, I call Chuck, and I'm going to call him in right now to this side of the gate. Hey, Chuck, thanks for coming on.
Hey, it's always interesting to come in someone's gate. So I'm peeking in, and I'm pretty excited about it. No, I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of neat. I mean, when we stroll on this side, we usually walk along with my guests, and they tell me how they perceive this side to be. It's different, I think, as each individual walks through. Some are going to tell us ghost stories, some are going to tell us something that they went through and how they got out of it, what they've learned about. It's just an amazing journey to walk on this side, and I thank you for walking with us tonight.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. I just feel so good today, and I'm not going to lie to you. It's been many months since I felt this grounded. So I can imagine what's going to happen.
Right. Well, that's it, Chuck. When you think about, I know you and I have talked about this before. When you talk about the paranormal and you talk about the supernatural, and you and I both know those are two different things. And you get bombarded with so many things like the para-reality TV shows or just your own reality. It's so easy to think that everything is just, because it's unknown, it's scary, and that it's been made to look dark where it wasn't dark, and then in some cases people don't realize how dark it can really be. It's just one of those things.
I've even had experiences, Sysco, where even when it looked like it was total light, that it turned out to be this false pretense. Mm-hmm. and these I call them. I read a good book by a good friend of mine, and she calls it like the dangers in the light. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, there is a lot of false pretenses out there that people have to be careful of, mm-hmm. especially if you're going to dive into this divine path.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, if you take also, I know we're kind of jumping around here, and I promise to my listeners, we'll settle down. And we'll right now, we're just giving you an idea where this is going to go, because we're not even real sure where this is going to go. But the thing is, it's like you remind me of shamanism when you speak of that, because I know a lot of people that I've met who have gone that route, whether it be, just learning or whether they'd been in it for years, will tell you that a lot of times you have to meet the bad to get through to the good. You have to get through that. And I think, isn't that a little bit really like your life journey? Because I've had many elders tell me too that if we didn't have the hard lefts, if we didn't have the sorrows and the trials and everything else, our character wouldn't get built. We wouldn't know how to appreciate the good. So why would that be any different in the paranormal and the supernatural, right?
I mean, it absolutely has significance, and the symbols involved, and that statement is truly remarkable, because what folks don't understand is, we were blessed today to wake up, to breathe, to be able to see the green grass, to see the blue sky today, and we're not promised that tomorrow. So I believe that there's a firm, difference when we look at the physicality part of the component of the world and also the spiritual. But man, I'm telling you what, when you see things through a spiritual methodology, it changes you. It molds you to who you are. It rocks you to your core. And you know what? I have experienced, I'll just throw it out there. I have had some of the darkest days that I would never, ever, ever wish upon even my ex-wife. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
He's real, folks. He's real. Chuck's a real person. Let me tell you that right now. He's not going to hold back.
No. It is what it is. But when I stopped, realizing, it's not even realizing. It's not even a realization. When I stopped and I focused in and I realized that my ego was taking control of my life, I changed it because the darkness feeds off that negativity, that ego, and that's kind of what it is.
Well, it's true, Chuck, and I've said it 1,000 times. I call them cracks in your windshield. None of us are perfect. We all, have to realize, okay, I got to let that anger go. I got to let this go. I got to, or whatever it might be that small, but you can't ascend unless you let all of that stuff go. Like you have that long trench coat on with all those pockets, like back in the old shows where they were selling you gold watches on the street and stuff. Unless you empty all those pockets out, you can't lift. And that makes sense if you think about it that way. And we all have them. We all have to catch ourselves doing it and pull back from it because we're human.
Absolutely.
That's it right there.
I had an experience, Sysco, back in early August. I believe it was August 2nd, and it spiraled into a darkness that I would even stipulate that was even as dark as some of my most trying experiences 4 or 5 years ago. And the amount of pain, the amount of hate, the amount of animosity, and it just goes to show you that no matter how strong you get or how much good you can do to help other people out there, that you have to be careful and you have to be aware of something that could go awry. And something went awry because I had no recollection, no idea that I was going to be walking into a situation on a busy street just outside of Kansas City, Missouri, and walking into a demonic trap. And people have to be damn careful anytime that they're in the paranormal to begin with. But when a spiritualist, as much light as I can push out there into the world, can go through that, anybody can, and you just have to be real careful.
Understood. Now, just to give the listeners a little bit, tell me a little bit about yourself. Now, we said a lot in that bio, and I know we can add like football coach to that, and I can't imagine what a wonderful coach you must be. I've just always loved football. I've just always loved, I used to watch my brother practice in high school, and I was in the marching band, just all kind of, I just always love it. I love the whole thing, everything around it when it comes to that. But it takes a special person to coach players and to know how to get the best out of them. So I'm getting that helps you a lot in life and helping people through hard times and coaching them and getting the best out of them too. So I think all these things, although they sound like different separate entities, they all really kind of go together. So tell us a little bit about Chuck as an author, Chuck as, and what you do as a medium and everything else. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. I was born in the beautiful state of Iowa in 1972. I'm not going to get into all that crazy stuff. But I've had differing experiences, throughout my life. But really, when things started to shift, it was 2010. My dad had passed away April 30th, 2010. He suffered, and I kind of opened back up at that point. I believe that I was probably shut off about 15, 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
from seeing, being able to see, communicate, and that sort of stuff. Currently, I'm in my 20th season coaching football, my 19th year educating. I teach social sciences. I'm a history major. I have two master's degrees, and I have a specialist degree, just kind of right underneath what you would see with a PhD. And man, when Spirit showed up, Sysco, I even questioned myself. I was like, well,
Yeah.
what in the hell is going on? You
Right.
know what I mean? Why why are people being led to me? Why am I doing this? But I look at it kind of from that football coach mentality now. I'm big and rough around the edges, but I truly love all my players.
Right.
So I look at the spiritual world in much a similar facet. I deal with some of the darkest cases you can possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
When I get called in to clear, and sometimes when I get called in where I have to go in physically, that's just kind of what I do, and I go on a whim.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2.5 years ago, there was a 14-year-old little girl, and she was nearing the stages of possession, serious oppression, thoughts of even hurting her own sibling. And we ended up meeting up, and I took this spirit out of her, sucked it out, and brought it in my own, solar whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
my own, which was totally stupid. But I did have a good friend who's a professional, who deals with those intricacies, and he was able to pull that back out of me. But it's easy for me, and I don't say that as an arrogant person or
Right.
whatever, but it's easy for me to clean off the dirt, especially when it's affecting children.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go into a really creepy story with my daughter a little bit later on
Sure.
when it comes to that, because that's when actually, I realized, hey, you know what, I have these abilities to communicate with spirit and see energies in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
but I also have that ability to heal
Mm-hmm.
and to basically
Mm-hmm.
take out the trash.
Mm-hmm. Take out the trash. He's, paranormal garbage man. You know, I I have so many things, so many questions running around in my head right now. But basically, I would have to ask you this because it starts differently for everybody. But
Mhm.
first and foremost, it's your calling. I get drawn places. I have no clue, no plan most of the time, nothing. It happens. And I have come to the conclusion that really it has very little to do with me. It has more to do with whatever's working with me. And they know the crazy little redhead is going to go do it, and I'm just going to go through the motions because my heart is in it. If you
Yes.
know what I mean, because people will say, "Are you a medium?" And I'm like, "No, I'm more of an extra small." I mean, you're
Well,
an
I'm
extra
a
large. You're an extra large, Chuck.
I'm, I'm a 2X, damn it,
But
Um,
see, everybody wants to put labels, and I understand that, and I'm not saying anything against it. It's just I don't know how to label it. I know I'm
yeah.
empathic. I know I can't go certain places because it's just so overwhelming. Like, I have a hard time. Animals, I feel their fear. I feel their happiness. I feel their, if they're afraid. And I have to do something about it. I just have to. There's just no question. So it's the same with me if I come across, put in a situation where maybe I'm getting feelings off of a ghost, someone who's chosen to stay at this point, um, and maybe try to talk with them and maybe try to get them, but I can't hear them. And I'm learning about frequency and lower vibrations and higher vibrations, and I just don't think it has a whole lot to do with me. And I think maybe in your case, it started like that for you. You were just put in these positions. You were put there. You went. You didn't ask questions. You went. You knew you were needed, just like any caring human being would do. And then you started to hone and understand these things. And now you know your calling is I take out the garbage. I go in the dark cases. I cleanse houses. I help families. And that's amazing. And I thank you first and foremost for it because not everybody would do that. And we need those things. We need that. But you also put so much light back in the world. You're always tell them again that the name of the Facebook page. I don't want to forget.
Messages from Heaven. If they take a look at that Facebook page, I did shut down the Beyond the Light radio network so I can focus more in on where I think I need to be.
Right.
And when I did that, it was like everything just kind of just started to spiral in the correct direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. Do. You were moved to do it, and it seemed to be the right path to take. I get it.
I've had 3 callings to preach the Word of God since I was 7 years old,
mm-hmm.
and all 3 times I've turned it down,
mm-hmm.
and all 3 times I had negative experiences in the religious institutions.
Mm-hmm.
When I figured out, Sysco, that it's more complex than that. It's a lot more detailed than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
But to be able to throw Christ back into me.
Mm-hmm.
And really, speak,
mm-hmm.
Through himself and the angels. It changed me,
mm-hmm.
and it changed me for the better. Now, at times, I get so stuck in this physicality plane, like this man-made or this woman-made concept,
mm-hmm.
that okay, you gotta believe everything in the book. That's not entirely
mm-hmm.
the way it was written.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Psalms.
Mm-hmm.
Psalms are nothing but people's prayers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Your own
yeah.
spirit's prayer. So.
Yeah. I get it. It's from the heart, Chuck. I tell people all the time, I just did an episode a couple of times ago where I was talking about a time where I needed help so bad. And I said, this is exactly how I said it. There was no sing-songy prayer. There was no learned poem. I just said, hey, brother, I need help, and I need it right now. You know what's going down. I need, if I don't ask for help much. And, Archangel Michael, I'm like, hey, Mike, you got this? I need you, man. And by gosh, if it doesn't happen, I just try to tell people. They get so scared. I have actually had a girl send me a message not too long ago that said, I would pray, but I just don't know how to do it. And I said, honey, you just did. Do you need help? What do you need? Just tell me what's on your heart. And she said it. And I said, honey, you just prayed. You stop putting all these things around it. It's what's in your heart. And I tell people, too, if you're fighting something, whether it be just, a negative something that's around you, be it human or otherwise, you better believe what you're saying. Because you might as well you could just throw a slipper at it if you don't. So you got to get back to that belief thing. What do you believe? Do you believe in light and love? Do you believe? Because I really think that's what. I think Jesus is so much cooler than people think. That's just my take, babe.
And for all these conservatives,
yeah.
And granted, I do have some conservative leanings, whatever. But for all those conservatives out there, Sysco, I have to say this: Jesus is the most important socialist on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and a person that's willing to give up their entire reality, their entire complexion, and give it up for humanity,
mm-hmm.
and to give it up for faith or spirituality is truly amazing. I think too often, he's overlooked. More like, and again, I don't knock any religions,
Mm-mm.
whether Allah, Buddha, Mother Gaia, Tatanka with the Lakota Foundation. It's all really about the balance between light and darkness and the good and evil.
Yes,
it's all the story.
So true. I believe, somebody asked me, which religion do you think got it right? And I said, you know what? I think they all did in a little way. Because if you boil it all down, the core, be kind to you, be good to yourself, be good to others, take care of nature. I'm Native American, so I'm very I go back to that. Take care of nature. Don't use up everything. Only use what you need, and then put back. Leave no tracks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of those things. So basically, what we're saying here is, you just got to be the best you can be. And if you mess it up, just go back, see what you did wrong, and fix it. And if you do have cracks in your windshield, if you're angry, I had another gentleman about 4 weeks ago tell me that all his problems started because he had a boss that was so overbearing, and every day he had to deal with this and being put down and being torn apart and torn asunder, and just until he created such a hatred for this man. And it was unlike him because he was very completely different before he started, and it just let him eat at him, eat him, eat him, till something in his house that was probably there all along, or in his lineage, or somewhere else, found a crack and got in because of that. And he stems it back to that. Now, it really can be that easy, isn't it, Chuck?
Yeah, spiritual attachments is something that that can lash onto you. Even if you have no clue that it's happening. And it hampered me and my psyche for many, many, many years. And people have to be careful about that. Whether it's an addiction to drugs, alcohol, to sex, to the paranormal, because there are so many people that are addicted to this thing that we call the paranormal. It eats at them. It's like a drug. It's like they need it. And I caution that. You know what I mean? People have to be careful because at any moment those things can take place. I just removed a very dark attachment from myself, and it finally took an enough is enough approach, and it took to stop getting angry, to stop pushing out animosity, to stop thinking that I was right. Even if I was right, to send more love and prayers and insight into the world, which I think is extremely important.
I think so too. I really think so too. And I try to caution people too about, again, I was just having a conversation about the provoking. I'm just finishing up hopefully the last chapter. I keep saying the last chapter, and I remember something else. I'm like, this is important. Let me put this in. You know what it's like to be writing, right? And I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just trying to be honest. And so basically, I was trying to express this instance that I had with a guide who was so jaded. He didn't want to be there. He was ex-military himself. It was on a battlefield, and he was so tired of taking groups out that were so desensitized to the situation. And I can get that. I would never be able to do that. His story, I love history so much. I really think we should emphasize it more instead of taking it out of schools. I think it should be in there more. But this poor gentleman just did not want to take this tour out because the last one, a lady got slapped because she was asking impertinent questions about how does it like to get shot and stuff like this, and playing Dixie on the Union side, and just all these things. A man got picked up and thrown on his tour, probably I don't know how, a week earlier, because of doing these things. And the provoking. Somebody told me it's very much like putting on a blindfold and going into the worst bar you possibly can and go, anybody want a piece of this? That's the best way I can hear it. So how are you feeling about stuff like that?
I see it all the time, and you even see it on, you see it on the TV shows, and these young kids see this stuff. I also see it in a lot of these YouTube or these Facebook paranormal groups that are getting their T-shirts and throwing that shit out there, and pardon my French there, but basically that's these folks want to experience the exhilaration of the darkness so bad that they'll do anything to encounter it. And I'm here to say, these people that and they're dumb in my opinion, but these people that say, oh man, I want to see a demon, I can look it right in the eye and I can kick its ass, whatever, for someone that's experienced something, that I would say that is as close as you can ever get to that, and to see it multiple times in your life, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. They have no clue.
That's true.
What kind of bad things can happen
Chuck,
to you
I agree. I agree. And how many times have we gotten phone calls from people that say, I'm in over my head?
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what was in my house. I got a hold of a Ouija board. I got a hold of this. And again, I will state it again. It's not the board. It's your intent. It's your vibration. It's your emotional, what you're putting into it. Like attracts like. And if you're just going to open your door and go, anything can come in, and you
Oh,
don't have a clue what you did, and you might not know for years down the line, or it might go someplace else, or what, you got to think, people, about stuff like that, and it's not good. And the provoking too. It's not a bad idea. It's just plain rude. It's like
yeah. I mean,
walking.
it was.
Oh, I can't say it enough, Chuck.
It's
Yeah.
one of those things, and people don't understand either that. I mean, whether it's a ghost app, and a
Hmm.
lot of people say, apps don't work, whatever. If spirit wants to come through, they're going to come through, and they're going
Hmm.
to come through in abundance. And again, the SB7s, the SB11s, they can be just as bad as a Ouija board
Hmm.
if the intent is wrong. And
Hmm.
and and I think there's a lot of people out there that have these rose-colored glasses when it comes to these things, and they're thinking, oh,
Hmm.
this isn't a Ouija board or anything, so this can't be bad. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
It's
electronics. Now, I just had that conversation my last guest, and he put it very well. He thought that the Ouija board was a little different, and I agreed. Because you're moving your hands and you're basically, it's a channeling aspect. Now, explain to me about using the electronic stuff and why that might be different than the Ouija board, or is it the same to you? Just
in,
interested.
in yeah, in many regards, whether it's crap, I can't think of everything right now, but
Hmm.
whether it's even if you're in a meditative state, a
Okay.
prayer, if I'm channeling, if it's these SB7 sessions or whatever, if your intent is not clear, or you have not properly taken the precautions necessary to protect you or the group or the people that are going to be listening to that stuff,
Okay.
then things can peek through.
Okay.
And I think that they're all tools
Hmm.
that can be utilized, to communicate with the beyond, beyond the veil,
Okay.
beyond this doorway that we're talking about tonight.
Right.
It's one of those things. I have to be extremely careful because my light bulb is so freaking bright. And again, I don't
Yes.
say that, with ego or anything like
Right.
that, but my light bulb's so bright that it's all sometimes like a bug zapper with some of these darker energies.
I gotcha. I gotcha. And two, again, I think you have that calling, you know. Um, and I've said that as well. Like if you have an ability, and basically I've explained it like turning on your back porch light. As soon as you turn on the back porch light, it's gathered with all these bugs are just attracted to it. It's the same type of thing. And I think the protection is very important. I think whatever your belief, your light, and again, like I said earlier, if you don't believe it, they're going to find that crack in that, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really about the heart.
it is.
And I've always said that. And,
Mhm.
people can carry their Bibles, they can carry their crucifixes, they can carry their sage,
Mhm.
their rocks, all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if they do not believe it
Mhm.
in their heart,
Mhm.
it's not going to make any difference.
I agree 100%. 100%. And I agree with the electronic stuff too. I don't think the electronic stuff is the same as the Ouija board. I do think there's a channeling involved there, but like you said, that you explained it very well. However, there was a situation, a friend of mine has another show, and he had a caller. And the caller was having a lot of issues, and the caller had called in about 5 or 6 times, and each time it kept getting gradually worse and worse and worse and worse. And we know what that's about. So
Oh,
during this time, supposedly the caller didn't hear anything. The actual interviewer didn't hear anything, but it went out over broadcast. Everybody else heard something. And the minute I heard it, I knew it was bad. Shut everything down. I got the whole toolbox out. Everything came out. The holy water, the anointing oil, the prayers, sage, everything. Because I got so nauseous instantly. Now, if people think that electronics isn't a carrier, think again. Just saying. Am I right?
But by the way, my pendulum's saying yes.
Yes. Yes, it is. I see it. It's amazing.
I
That's
mean,
beautiful.
and it's, I don't move my hand.
Uh-huh. But you see what I'm saying, electronic
Yeah.
wise,
Yeah.
and one of I remember not too long ago there was a show that came out and it said exorcism live, and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
you gotta be kidding me. Just it's gotten crazy, Chuck. It really
I've
has.
done, I've done live streams in my basement, back when
Hmm.
I would consider a little bit stupid. And, when I was self-exploring, and a lot of my books kind of, say, hey, do as I say, not as I do when it comes to
Yes.
some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But, there were a lot of people affected by the things that would
Hmm.
come through my portal. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
I
So,
do. I do. So that's what I'm trying to put out here now. People just think about that. If you really want to understand a lot of this, myself, I don't need to understand a lot of it. There's things I just don't want to know. I'm fine with
yeah,
that. I'm so good with that. But I know enough to know that. You see, and I don't know anything, and I've been looking into this for 45 years, and I can say I got more questions now than I did when I started. But there's so many different layers to this. So just take caution, use common sense, and think about it. On the provoking thing, just to finish that up, you're going to do what you want to do. That's free will. My own personal opinion. I wouldn't walk into my neighbor's house, kick open the door, and start commanding them to do things. When you're talking to ghosts, remember that ghosts were people too, and just try to have a little self-respect and a little respect for them as well if you can, because you do not know what you're dealing with. How do you feel about that statement, Chuck?
well, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, if somebody came in and started yelling at my kids in my house, I would beat the hell out of them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's much a similar mentality.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because there's going to be, if a ghost has decided to stay or doesn't even know they're dead, whatever we're dealing with, whether it's, of course we're talking about a ghost that's intelligent, not a oh, what do you call it? The
It's
imprint, not the imprint. What is that one?
Yeah,
Residual, or whatever you want to
residue,
say.
yeah,
Yeah, residue.
residual.
When you're dealing with something like that, it's like talking to a person, and they might not be able to see you, then maybe they can see you. There's a lot of maybes and question marks here. So when you go in there and you start going, I mean, I watched a thing the other day where they came in and they were talking to a 3-year-old girl and saying, "Is there something we can get for?" They were doing it very sweet, but is there something? Would you like some candy? Would you like some food? I'm like, yeah, make the ghost a sandwich. I'm like, what is going on here? You first of all, you're just losing their. You're just. I can see. I can see his face, and he's all riled up now. I got Chuck riled. Can you imagine though? Here you are. You're wasting their energy and asking them if they want things you can't give them, and it's just wasting their time. So think about that. And I had another homeowner tell me, well, we just want to know what's here. We don't want them to leave. And I'm like, well, you don't have anything to say about it. Ghosts aren't
No,
pets, people.
no. And there's one thing that I had to work on, especially early on when I would do clearings, is I would have that uncanny ability to clean out the entire place,
Cool.
even the relatives, and
Hmm.
that's something that I've had to work on over the years.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. Well, they'll say, we want Aunt Betty to stay, but time, and I don't understand time, Chuck. I don't pretend to understand it, but I'm learning that time is so relative. I don't know if so many different things can be going on at the same time. I don't know whether there's another plane of existence, whether there's, you know, uh, that duplicate, alternate universe kind of. I have no clue. But just in case, what happens if the ghost that's happy in the bar today because he's having a really good time? What's he going to do 200 years from now when it's a parking lot? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, or is the bar always there spatially?
I don't know.
You know,
But I don't know. And how long is it going to take for somebody else to come along and be able to talk to that guy? So I can tell you that I have walked away from some who decided to stay. and wanted to stay, but I always let them know that, that your free will, as long as you're cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't make, well, I can't, maybe you can, but just understand that that little cocktail waitress over there that you like to watch come in and out of work, she's not going to be here forever. And I don't know if their reality is going to change or what they perceive is going to change. So, I mean, there's so many question marks here. So to me, if you get one that can pay attention and you're communicating with them, try to give them as nicely as you can all the information that you can, all the help you can, and don't waste their energy asking them if they want a sandwich or something else. That's just silly. Or knock on the table 3 times. If you do this, we'll help you, and then leave and don't do anything, because that just irks me.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? It makes me sad. So, I mean, I don't know how you feel about all that. Tell us a little bit about some of your experiences with that. I mean, do you go in and explain everything to the ones who will communicate with you, or you just go in and do this like vortex cleansing? What do you do?
I go in anytime that I'm called into a particular situation. I go in blind.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to. Well, first and foremost, if it's a dark entity, the people have told me, hey, I'm having night terrors. I'm being held down in bed. My child is, being held down and is afraid of the dark, whatever. And what I do at that point is I do things just a little bit differently. I will go in and survey the area, do some intel, so to say. And I had one down in the Kansas City region. It's about an hour north of Kansas City that I cleared out. A good friend of mine, he and his wife and his family were being terrorized by, kind of a darker being. I would not call it a demon. Mm-hmm. But I would call it more of a pissed off soul, yes. Probably somebody that wasn't a very good person, and passed on. And it took a lot of work.
For my listeners, an ass soul.
Yes. But anyway, so I went in there and then I did my rigmarole. They were Christians, so they were fine with me, utilizing the Holy Bible, the verses, telling these darker spirits that are harming their children to go back to the drier pastures to whence they came, mm-hmm. and being able to do that, pretty wholeheartedly, mm-hmm. and then basically cleansing the people. You know what I'm saying? I have what I don't like is I don't like when people out there try to constantly test my abilities, mm-hmm. and where they would hide a potentially darker situation that could have negative impact on not only me but themselves, and mm-hmm. that happens more often than not too. But it's
really?
It's
really yeah, why would somebody to test you? Because they're being, you think, influenced by that? So it's just like I don't know. That's wild. Because to me, I can't imagine hiding something like that. I'm like, get it all. Just get it all. Mm-hmm. Get it all. I don't get it.
I like I said, I've been a part of numerous investigations, okay. and dark extractions, and when folks know that, sometimes you get into situations, okay. where they blatantly lie to you,
okay.
Just to get you to be a part of that investigation,
okay.
So they can. I don't know whether you call it fame or whatever, whatever the hell it is, but it's wrong. But mm-hmm. I actually went into a situation. I was open. I was channeling this young man, and he was full of so much love. Mm-hmm. He wanted the person to know that he had been murdered, but he passed into light right away. Didn't suffer a lot.
Okay.
Well, I walk a little further down there, Sysco, and there's a very dark, it's almost a mafia dumping grounds, and it's very dark.
Okay.
And I was, you know how when you feel real good and you're walking around, and then all of a sudden
bam,
it just hits your gut and it stops you, bam.
Yep.
And that's what took place. And if I would have known that there was demonic activity in this region,
Mm-hmm.
I would have prepared for that.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Now I get it. Um, Boy, I got so many questions. First off, have you been in situations in a household or otherwise where the ghosts and or entities, let's just talk human ghosts at this point, because when you add the other, it gets so many other layers to it, where the ghosts are unaware of each other?
You know, during, I would say back in, let's see, I got to think of the exact year, 2013. I had a good friend of mine, Kenny Addison. He does lights paranormal out on the East Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and I was dealing with some really nasty shit. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, stuff was scratching me,
Mm-hmm.
stuff was holding my daughter down. Things were bad, and Kenny said, at the point it didn't make any sense to me, but it makes more sense now.
Okay.
Whereas I had a what he called a soul sucker or a soul collector
Okay.
that had attached to me, and all these spirits wanted to come and converge and talk to me, and it was keeping these spirits intact. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does.
So the house itself was like a ticking time bomb,
Okay.
and I can only imagine why I was starting to lose time. I was starting to, kind of lose it a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, as far as, who I was, what I love to do, stuff like that. And,
Okay.
it definitely made sense. Now, I think that all the spirits understood that, or they engaged with each other. So they understood and they knew, but they couldn't quite understand why they couldn't leave.
Okay. That makes sense to me. What I'm visualizing now, don't laugh,
Mm-hmm.
but you're like the food court at the mall
Mm-hmm.
to, something like that, because it's like, hey, they're all being drawn to him. I'll just stay here by him, and they're all just going to come to me, and
Yeah.
it's a buffet, and I can get that, you know, and how sad for everybody else that wasn't aware. So they were not aware about this, obviously, because I have seen cases where there were things, different human spirits in a house that were unaware of the others, and I've seen where they were, aware. So it's just, like I said, we're trying to put everything in this nice, neat little file cabinet with all these nice little labeled files. And you can't really do that in this subject, because sometimes they bleed over into the next file, and sometimes they have a little bit
Sure.
of this and a little bit of that. And I think that's what makes this subject interesting. And the bullseye keeps moving, so we're never going to hit it. And when you think you do, boy, it's gone. It's moved again. But that makes sense to me. And
It,
so but you got rid of that. You're good to go.
yeah,
Good.
I
Yeah,
had
good for
I
you.
had a situation when things first started out. Every household that I've lived in the past 15 years have all had similar activities,
Hmm.
similar, and both my daughters both have some pretty awesome abilities as well, but sometimes that pulls in. But we were living in an apartment just down the road from the Iowa State Penitentiary in Fort Madison, Iowa,
Uh-oh.
before I bought this house, and there was a dark man that kept finding its way to the end of my kid's bed, and we would hear like music boxes playing at night. The wife and I were like, what the hell's that? Or
Hmm. Hmm.
you know we heard a little girl singing one night. I go in and see if it's my little daughter, and it's not. She's fast asleep.
That's so creepy.
But but there was one night, I'd had enough, and as a dad, I was ready to kick the universe's ass. So I told my daughter Chelsea, I said, hey, we're gonna go downstairs to the basement where you've seen it. So we go down there, and I call this son of a bitch out,
Hmm.
and I propagated, which I probably shouldn't have. And this being went into my oldest daughter. Her eyes turned black, and she
Oh.
says, "Get out! This is mine." And I immediately grabbed the top of her head. I recited the Lord's Prayer and about 800 other things, and I
Hmm.
pulled this nasty son of a bitch out, and I threw it back, to hell to which it came. And she passes out, wakes up, and she's just fine. That's when I believe that the spirit said, holy shit, this guy's got abilities.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of call it a curse sometimes over a gift, but
Mm-hmm.
then we moved to this place, and this place was as active as I've ever seen. I had a Nordic symbol branded in my neck
Oh my.
when I'm in the shower one night. Felt it was on fire. And a lot of things, started to amp up. This is when I said, you know what? I think something's over there, so I'll take a picture. So I take a picture, and we see all these nasty entities that tended to rear their ugly head. And William, I call him Wild Bill, shows up for the first time. And this Bill entity, Sysco, is as dark of an entity that you could even possibly imagine. Is he the soul sucker? I can't verify that for sure, but it took a long time to get rid of this. Now, there was one night I actually used holy water. I was doing a live stream. I was throwing it out, and a good friend of mine back then from Texas, she could hear like what would appear to be like you know how when water hits the hot coals it goes
Right.
Okay, and that's what happened. And things simmered down for a couple of weeks, and then all hell broke loose. The doors open. I'll take you on a quick. Only you can see it, but
Yeah, that's okay.
This door back here.
He's pointing at a door.
You can see that it won't open on its own. Okay?
Right.
Always open. Stuff in there just flop down the ground. Lights on. You know what I mean? Stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was down here one night a couple years back, and I was meditating, doing whatever. I was home alone, and upstairs, we have a fireplace, and we're burning a fire, and I heard boom. So I go upstairs, and my dog's freaking out too. And there was probably I'd say it's probably 8 or 9 pound log, pretty big, and it's 8 feet from where it was at, standing straight up and down. So this shit was quite real.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. People don't realize it. I don't know quite how to put it. Everything looks great on TV. And then, all of a sudden the remote comes off the table and smacks you in the head and things start getting real. And again, I tell people you can't just jump to conclusions. Now, like what Chuck and I were just talking about, he's seen everything from the light to, the darkest dark. The lightest light to the darkest dark.
You see this here, right?
Yes, I see. The cabinet, yeah.
One night I was talking to George Turner. This cabinet went like this.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And George sent me a key, an iron key, and that this story's in my book as well. George, psychic medium Freddie Rivera from New York, another gal up in northern Iowa, all helped me when I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on. Well, the investigative team from northern Iowa, she died of cancer within 11 months of helping me. Freddie Rivera had a massive heart attack, I think within a year of helping me. And then George Turner, the day that I got the ring, or not the ring, sorry, the iron key, because he's into that. Okay. I didn't open it right away, but the day that I opened it up, 6 days later, George was in a horrific car accident, nearly took his life. And I will tell you that you have to be damn careful when dealing with something that's real. It's it's not like TV, folks.
Right. This is exactly what I'm saying. So, also I think in a lot of ways, Chuck, I mean, you're into history. Okay. And what do they say about history? If we do not learn from history, we're destined to repeat it. Correct? George Santayana, right? So that's the thing. Just trying to collect my thought here on it's basically we have become so desensitized as a society. Now, I've said this before, but I think it begs repeating. I remember growing up. Now, I can go about 10 years earlier than you. I was 62. I was born. And I grew up in a society where, yeah, these things were going on. There were definitely murders. I can remember when In Cold Blood came out, everybody was just astonished by it, and I remember when Psycho came out and they had a nurse and of course hired, but a nurse in a nurse's uniform and a doctor in his clinical white thing, because everybody was going to pass out because he used Hershey syrup in the tub, and everybody was just shocked by that, the stabbing in the shower. Now I can watch, a zombie's head blow off any time of the day on at least 4 channels. We have come like, and we've become desensitized to things. Now, I think that comes alive in the paranormal as well. We've taken to the point where, if all a ghost can do to get your attention is, rap on a table or bang a cabinet or, move a glass, throw glass on the floor or something, don't just jump to conclusions that it's, something so dark. But don't take it lightly either. And don't take it into your own hands. Get some people, some reputable people who can maybe come in, get someone like Chuck, get someone that, has got a good reputation to help you understand what's going on. It could be Aunt Agnes. It could be. So it's best to find, if people have gone through things like Chuck has gone through, and so many of my friends have, they've seen it. They've seen it all. So it's best to get that kind of guidance. You wouldn't go to, the guy on the corner who's got a good deal going on to get your arm put back on. You go to a good surgeon. You go to somebody who knows what they're doing. This is the same type of thing. But don't just jump to conclusions, and try to stop with all being so desensitized to things. People went through, he just mentioned a gentleman was in a horrible car accident. I can't drive down the road. When I go past something, I know someone died there. I can't tell you how bad it is. I've got empath stuff so bad, Chuck. I feel it. I drive through it and I feel the pain. And I wonder how many people are stuck that were in car accidents. Or what I think about too? I have a hard time going to junkyards where the cars are taken because there's so many people still attached to the cars. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel that, man. I feel
And,
that.
it's one of those things where people have to, you just have to be cautious,
Yeah.
Like my son was in a horrific car accident. My oldest daughter's been in a horrific car accident.
My son as well.
And both of them inches from death. And, I send out protection every day, to those guys, and I count my blessings, which is extremely important. But yeah, people have to be damn careful. And
we can't say it enough. We can't, and that's just true. But like you said about the car accidents, listen to me. I know you've had those moments where you go into the hospital room and you think, and you just hit your knees and you say, thank you, God, for not taking him in that situation, because I know what he was doing at the time, or I know the frame of mind he was in. And I'm thinking, I literally took my son by the shirt when he could finally stand on his own, and I grabbed it up. You know me, Chuck, I did this. And I grabbed both hands full of T-shirt and I shook him and I said, you little son of a gun. I said, do you realize I would have been out there with every medium and every psychic I had? I would have had to go to that thing just to make sure your little butt wasn't stuck in that situation. And I meant it. And I mean it too, Chuck.
Yeah, and I have to say that I think Sysco said, you little son of a bitch. But
I did. because he is. I can verify. But that's just it, though. But but when you know the things that we know, and again, I'll say I don't know much, but when you know the things that we know, look, I've got a good friend who spent probably almost every night that she could go out to this cornfield that was not far from her home. Bless her heart. Her and her husband, and all he was interested in was photography and things like that. She had dowsing rods. Well, before you know it, they come across a plane crash site. And, it was so many years earlier. I think it was in 56 maybe. And it was a small aircraft. I think 76 people were killed on it. But over the time, she was getting communication via the dowsing rods, and her being not knowing how many abilities she did have. You know how that can happen.
Yeah.
And communicating with them. And she found out that 6 of them that were still there had no idea they had died and were just wandering. A couple of them, 2 of them were there actually staying with a few other ones, trying to convince them to go. I mean, there's just the combination of ghosts that would communicate with her. And then you've got the ones that probably never did. Now, we're not saying that everybody's in an accident. That's not true. Because Chuck said earlier that, a young man was murdered and he crossed over just fine.
Yeah.
But it depends on your frame of mind. So if you're drunk, if you're depressed, if you're under some kind of addiction or drugs and you're in an accident, your chances of being erratic at that time and then getting taken out, bam, so fast, your chances you're adding some bad things on there. Am I right, Chuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
you,
true.
you also have to be careful of not to hold on to too many things from that physical component, because that too
Hmm.
can cause you to stick around.
Name some of those off, Chuck, just for people
Well,
listening. Regret.
like my father, he had a hard time passing into the light because he was going to miss his wife so much,
Okay.
his soulmate.
Hmm.
Uh, that took some coercing and doing,
Hmm.
but let's say you really like uh race car driving.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's something that you don't, you know what I mean, you just can't live without it, and you just
Hmm.
don't understand that you can probably do that
Hmm.
in the next realm of existence anyway, but you're so
Tuned
embraced
in.
into that
Yeah, yeah,
that it can cause you to stick.
yeah. So basically, what you're saying is you could be so into race car driving or something like that, or an activity that you can't live without, so you can't die without it either.
Hmm.
I know that sounds funny, but it's true. I've seen, just little things. I guess the main thing, because I do a lot of battlefield stuff. I don't know why. I just know in my other lives I must have been, in a warrior of some sort. I guess I was in a lot of wars. I don't know, but I'm drawn to them. And the number one thing I get is fear of
Hmm.
being judged, fear of I've seen hell, I don't want to go through there. That kind of thing. Misunderstanding. That's why Chuck and I are trying to say it's about your heart. It's not about who you love or anything like that. It's about you. It's about your heart and what kind of person you are. So let's get that out there. Um, because you could, we could go on forever about, ultimate love and all that kind of stuff and learning our lessons and, all that kind of stuff. But basically, that's it. That's what holds a lot of people back. And regret, forgiveness, things like that. Listen, I'm going to tell Chuck a story here, and I'm going to tell y'all it too. Because, if people don't learn from real things and, we're not honest about stuff like this, then nobody's going to be touched in their real life if you don't tell the truth. So I'm going to tell this, and I'm going to ask Chuck because I bet you anything he's going to pick up when I pull into the energy. But my dad, whew, we have a saying here on this show, Chuck. You, you you don't ask a rock to be a tree. A person's going to be the person that they're going to be. Okay. My dad was a really good rock. And I often say that he could have made so many women happy if he just didn't marry them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is it. I'm the youngest of so many that he had. And I've just been to this point where I'm just sending him, every time I think about him, I send him good love and energy. How you doing, Pop? You know, trying to send, because I know I'm the only one doing it. Okay, that's one. Two, that was his call in life. Do you get my point? I can't blame him for who he was because he was who he was. I had nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? Now, I could go through my whole life and hold that regret and whatever you want to say, anger, jealousy, where were you and all this. My life wouldn't be what my life is now if that was that way. So you just got to take it as it comes. I could sit here and commiserate about it and all that. Nope. I'm flipping it. And I'm saying, I love you, Dad, you know, and let me tell you what happened.
I do.
You're
I
picking it
do have
up, aren't you?
I do have to ask you.
Uh-huh.
Are you okay with me sharing this?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, he says, "I love you too, pumpkin pie."
Ah. Well, the thing is that I think the last time I saw him, I was 3. The last time I spoke to him, I was 13 on the day of my mother's funeral. And I passed out when I heard his voice. I was just so overcome. But the thing is I've seen a couple of different mediums. So I have a lot of friends, psychic, you name every flavor you can and every mix you can
Yeah.
name. Okay. And I'm sitting in front of these people and I'd say, okay, well, I've learned to just sit down and go, is there anything I need to hear right now? Because I can ask whatever I want to ask and ask to speak to whoever I want to speak to. That's not the way you do it really anymore. You know what I mean? Where I do it anymore. I sit down and I go,
And
what do they want to say?
I get the feeling that he was. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly, Dad. But
It is what it is.
but isn't it weird that I feel so incredibly close to him though? Now this is it. I'm sitting down and usually my mom comes in 'cause she's got this incredible energy and she's just a go-getter and she's smart and sassy and
100 miles
fun.
an hour. 100 miles an hour.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, she's fantastic. And she has been my best teacher in life, and she's my best teacher in death, Chuck. I cannot tell you any other way. She is fantastic. I love her so much. And I feel her all the time. And I know she protects me, and she guides me, and she smacks me across the back of the head when I need it. I tell you, it's still going on. So I expected her to come through. But I asked the medium, can you check on my dad? Because nobody else is going to ask about him. And she says, well, I have his man, and he's got his head down. She goes, well, hang on a second. Here comes your mom. She's bringing him in. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think they would be on the same, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure it out, but I'm not saying anything, right, Chuck? And she says, well, she's got him by the collar. And I'm going, that's him.
By the
Yes.
freaking ear.
Yeah. That's him. She says, well, he's having a hard time to talk because he's not picking. He's going through a lot. I guess you have to go through all the pain you caused and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying.
Like a purgatory of sorts.
Exactly. And I said, I just want to know if the energy and the love I'm sending him is helping him at all.
Yeah. Well,
and she said yes.
He still misses Brandy.
Oh, I bet he does.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's
Oh, wait a
Brandy
minute. Are we talking about the liquor or the girl? Because
well,
either one.
maybe it's both.
God bless him. That's what I'm saying. You just got to embrace people for who they are. Because if you're trying to change somebody,
He
yeah.
He liked tail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was something. But you know what? He was what he was, and part of me is part of him. And that's just the way that is. But the cool part was over
He's
the
doing
years.
this. It is what it is.
It is what it is, baby. That's right. Yeah. But he couldn't speak. The first 3 times he came, and he kept coming through all these different people, and each different one. And that was weird because they all described him the same way. And then over the years, he was starting to be able to lift his head. And he put his army uniform back on. And he was standing all straight. And I'm like, I'm just going to keep sending him that energy. So but see, it's not just helping him, Chuck. It's helping me.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? Now that story right there might be able to help somebody. I mean, why do you have to sit in front of a medium and cry and go, I had a bad relationship with my mom or my sister or my dad or anything like that? Listen, honey, let it go. Let it go.
You had this. It wasn't Raggedy Ann, but it was like a yarn doll, and I'm seeing you, you know what I mean, with those tears and rage, that beautiful little redheaded smile that you have, though.
Mm-hmm.
and seeing you battle through that. That's pretty
Hmm.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, the thing is I was angry. I was angry
Hmm.
because my mom was angry, I think, the whole time when she was pregnant with me. And I had somebody tell me that the anger energy, what didn't belong to me, it belonged to her. And I said, God bless
Yep.
her. Because the amount of what she went through is hard to describe. But the minute I was able to identify it, I was able to do something with it. I was like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. It does make perfect sense. You're going to absorb that, you know.
That's
Isn't
see
that
see see
incredible?
that's what makes your soul so beautiful.
Oh, thanks, sweetie. And it wasn't listen. It's her, it's my spirit guides, it's the people around me, it's the lineage. I
Yeah.
have some strong, beautiful women in my lineage. I can tell you that. They are fantastic. And it's the Native American too.
Is it Cherokee?
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh man,
Yep.
I
Cherokee and Lenape.
yeah. Well, I can feel it, and
Mhm.
it is a beautiful energy though.
It's just I'm just renting it. I'm just
Hey,
renting it.
do you see my eyes almost changing brown
Yeah.
like a Native American?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
feeling the energy.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And see, this is it, Chuck. Um, and this does have to do with the paranormal. It has more to do with the supernatural. This is
Mhm.
my thing. My Nana, who would be my mom's mother, okay? She used to take me around, let's say in the early 60s to late 60s. And when she got a chance, she would take me out in nature and she'd show me the sassafras tree and say, you can make this tea and you can, for a sour stomach or for this or for that, right? She would show me different herbs, but she would always look around first, Chuck. Like somebody, if they heard her, she could be
Oh yeah.
jailed for it, okay? I was a kid and I was picking it up like we had to keep this a secret. And my mom, she was a little bit more removed from it because her mom was born in 1890. So if you think about what was happening in history, what was happening in the East Coast in 1890, still pretty darn close to Cherokees having their property taken, their homes, confiscated, your business could be taken, your kids could be whisked away and taken to a school and beaten for their own language and have their hair cut. You know what I'm talking about. That's
Oh
not
yeah.
far removed in 1890, okay? So she had to keep it a secret that she was Native American. That's one. My mom was a little more removed from that. So she used to speak a little Lenape and she used to talk about firewater and she'd talk about different things. She brought it out a little bit more. Now, I learned most of my stuff from my great grandmother, my grandmother's mom.
Well,
And,
Cisco, you're a shaman.
huh?
You're a shaman,
Well, I haven't gone through all the stuff, but
but
by,
you were a shaman.
yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I know. And she, she would hold my hand and let me braid her hair and teach me how to plait. That's what she called it, braiding. And she would teach me a little of the language. She was never forget who you are. Never forget who you are because she couldn't say who she was. Now, if you think if my Nana was born in 1890, you know, my great grandma was probably 20. So you know the time she lived in. They had to hide who they were and she didn't want me to forget. She said, "Never forget, never forget." Now, my mom and I moved out of that house because we were just staying with my grandma and grandpa after she left my dad, and we found our own house. And because all of my older sisters and brothers moved away, they were all older and had their own stuff going on. I didn't get to talk to them about my early childhood much. So it was 20 some years later, I had my own child. And we're sitting around, and finally, without my dad being oppressive over everybody, people could start talking about the haunted house we used to live in and the Revolutionary War soldier and all this stuff, right? And I had asked because I used to sew on an old Singer sewing machine with my great grandmother in the cellar of my grandmother's house. And I'd sit with her for hours and she'd tell me these things. And I said, does anybody know what happened to that? What happened when they moved the house out? Who got the sewing machine? Well, nobody had, nobody knew. And my sister was getting angry when I'm telling these stories about my great grandmother. And finally, I thought she was mad because grandma spent so much time with me. I didn't know, but she, every once in a while she'd get her nose out of joint quick. She finally said, "Wait a minute, what year was this?" And I told her I was in kindergarten. I used to get off the bus right in front of the house, run down, get a cold apple out of the root cellar, and sit with grandma, right? And she'd tell me all this stuff. And she goes, "Okay, well, that was this year. That was like, what, 1969, 1960?" She goes, "Hold on a minute. Grandma fell down the cellar steps, broke her hip. They took her to the hospital, okay? And great grandma died in the rehabilitation hospital. And I took you on my hip to that funeral. And that was before you ever went in kindergarten. You never sat with grandma in that cellar. She never taught you Native American or taught you how to sew. You never plaited her hair because she was dead." And I said, "Oh, yes, I did." It was important enough for that woman to come back from the other side to tell me never to forget about being Native American. And she picked me. So there, too. How's that, Chuck?
Tell you what, that's remarkable.
And I'm telling this story to a medium that can see right through to my soul, and that's a true story, isn't it, Chuck?
It absolutely is.
Yeah, yeah. And they still stand with me. I feel it. Do you know what I mean?
You have, there's also chieftain blood in your veins, or at the very least, when you look at shamans and the medicine, the medicine that was invoked, whatever. Yeah, they're around you, and I know that you smell tobacco.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's a beautiful thing, and I know I've learned so much around powwow circles from elders, and it's just I come from a people who would rather not be extinct, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And that's how I feel about it. So I'm very traditional, try to keep it. And one of the things, and it comes back to what you were saying earlier, one of the first things, and I don't remember it all the time, but I try to, is you're supposed to roll out of your bed or your cot or your roll, whatever you're on, and the first thing you do is you thank the Creator for this new day and this new opportunity to be a better you. You thank for the present. You don't worry so much about the past or what's coming in the future. You have to be in your present. And if you can do that, and like Chuck says, with your heart, believe in the things that you believe in, and believe in yourself, and let a lot of this earthly stuff go. And that's Ghost Prevention 101, isn't it, Chuck?
Absolutely.
How cool is that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take up so much of your time telling you about my my great nana, but boy, she was something. And I kind of just feel her here, and that's just it, It was important enough. I don't feel like she was stuck. I feel like she was more of a visitation. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like she was stuck at all. I think she was the most together woman I ever met. So there's that. But we do have to think about, some of the ones who you had said earlier, a young man was murdered. Let me ask you this. What have you learned from the dead about living? Do you find that most of them who have crossed over, they're not all caught up in this stuff anymore? Once they've crossed, they come back with messages of love and, go on with your life and things like that. What do you have to say about that?
Well, what I've learned is one of the most remarkable things that anybody can possibly imagine. I wrote a book, my very first book, Paranormal Experiences of Death: The Final Frontier. And, I said, death is the destination of finality. We are all headed towards this destination, depending on beliefs, brings you to an afterlife or to a never-ending sleep. Throughout these pages, I will explore the possibilities we all have regarding the processes of death and our journey that we're all on. Yeah. And, I can say that, because I wrote it, number one, but number two, just knowing that there's something truly magical past this physical plane of existence, and understanding that you don't have to fear. You don't have to fear death anymore. Is truly what I've gotten from spirit. But that too, can counter. As far as there is darkness and there's light, and you have to learn to transverse and get out of the darkness and into the light, which is sometimes it's a high wire act. But truly, that's the most meaningful thing, is to understand that we do not end when we die on this physical plane of existence.
It's just energy, and energy transforms into something different, and I absolutely believe that. People tell me all the time, well, you can't say this and that, you have to be more. I said, look, first off, let me tell you this: I'm not a journalist. I'm not a broadcaster. I'm a podcaster. This is my podcast. And yes, I can say that I believe that there is an afterlife. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have to throw this out there. People anymore, they used to say, oh, you have to prove it. I don't have to squat.
There you go.
Through my personal experiences, and it's been a wonderful experience. We all experience it differently. I'm out of that business anymore. I don't have to prove squat, because what I is both magical and dark at the same time.
Yeah. And I've had people say that to me. It's like, you prove it to me. You prove to me that there's ghosts. You prove to me that, people can come back from the other side and give their loved ones messages of love and forgiveness or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I'm too tired. You prove to me that they don't.
Yeah. Well,
there it is.
I did an EVP, and I won't keep you too much longer, but I did an EVP, about 5 years ago, and I says, Jesus Christ is protecting me. You know that, right? And immediately what came out in about 5 different voices: Jesus ain't happening, F off. And it said the real F word. And I have, and I've shared that many times. And for people, who say, oh, nothing exists past this plane of existence, they're wrong. But again, this is from my experiences.
Right. And, I'm going to get you to tell us a little bit about your books and stuff too before you go. But the main thing I find that, if a ghost, I call them ghosts, I call them spirits if they've crossed, that's just my thing. It's not right or wrong. It's just mine. But ghosts still have a lot of their earthly burdens with them, whatever it was that was going on. Okay, that's just number one. When they cross, and whatever goes on over there, whether you go through a healing or an acceptance, whatever you want to call it, when they come back, it's always a message of love, or to tell their loved one, you go on, be happy, marry that one. I just want you to be happy. It's like they become so enlightened and light at the same time. That's what I've found. And I've learned from the dead about living is this: live, enjoy yourself, eat the chocolate, plant the flowers, buy the flowers for yourself, do this, enjoy, laugh, dance, do it. That's just the thing. And if you've done something, you've made a mistake, learn from it, glean from it what you can, and let it go. Forgive the people that, messed with you. It's not your job to fix them. And forgive yourself too. And that's the messages I get from them. How are you getting? Are you getting pretty much the same stuff from those that have crossed? Pretty much the same thing, yeah?
Sure. Yeah, it's one of those things where you can't beat yourself up. You do have to truly forgive yourself. You really, when you were brought into this life, you chose to come here. And really it's about finding a way to love yourself and others equally.
And that's absolutely it. Be respectful of the living, yourself and the dead. And if Chuck and I can tell you nothing else, it's that. And like you said, be careful. If you don't mess with something if you don't understand it. It's not fun and games, because I've gotten phone calls, and like I said, Chuck is one of my precious links on my chain of help, because people call me or they send me emails. They say, I'm in it. I need help. okay, what state are you in? Where are you at? Let me see if I got somebody in that. So you can talk to somebody who knows. Try to cut through the garbage. Chuck knows multiple people. So, connect with him on Facebook. Watch his Facebook lives. He pops in and out all the time, don't you, Chuck?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
not so much the last couple weeks, but
Because school's in football season, you know. But that you learn a lot. The people on your Facebook group, I think, are wonderful. They're full of light and educated, just wonderful people. Tell us a little bit about the books and where to get them, Chuck.
yeah. You if you follow me, Charles Anthony, on Facebook, and shoot me a message, I can actually give you a better deal, and I make a little bit more money. You know what I mean? And I can sign the books. But
Okay.
right now, I'm running a special, Death the Saga, and Death the Saga actually has Paranormal Experiences, Death the Final Frontier, Experiences from Beyond the Light, and Out of the Darkness into the Light, and then the Return to Prosperity, all in one. So you get a chance to get that book. The Midwest Paranormal Road Trip is out as well, and I did write a book quite a while ago called Around the Dinner Table, Religion and Politics, the Butthurt Saga, and I talk about Donald Trump and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, but
Yeah, that's
you
awesome.
know all you can get Death the Final Front, or Death the Saga. I have to make sure I get that right, and the Midwest Paranormal Road Trip, both signed for $25.
Oh,
Free
that's awesome.
shipping. Free shipping in the United States. So,
Oh, that's wonderful. You can't get a better deal than that. Now that you said you go to charlesanthony.com or your
uh,
Facebook
uh,
page.
fa- Facebook page is Charles Anthony,
Okay.
and then follow us on Experiences Within the Light, and
Nice.
I do have a group page. It's a private group page, and it's a safe haven for people that may be struggling spiritually, or they just want to hang out with some really cool folks. Death the Final Frontier is the name of that group, but open arms.
Wonderful, wonderful. And, he's just as real as he sounds, folks, and he's just a precious friend to me. And I'm so glad and I would like to say I stumbled onto you by accident, Chuck, but there are no coincidences in paranormal. It was absolutely planned. And I'm so glad I found you, my friend. I
Yeah,
love you with my whole heart. Go ahead, take all the time you need. Go ahead.
and I love you too. Can I share out a couple of events that are coming up?
Oh, absolutely. Take the mic is yours, babe.
Okay. I've been invited to be a part of the Afterlife Paranormal Conference, and it's in DeKalb, Illinois. I want to make sure that I get the right date. I don't want to screw it up.
Take your
Let me
time.
click on. Okay. And it is going to take place on October 6th. Starts at 10 a.m. and it's at the Red Roof Inn in DeKalb, Illinois. I'm going to be a part of that. I'm also putting together my first it's a haunted Halloween psychic paranormal event.
Wow.
It's going to be at Many Faces Bed and Bath in Educator, Iowa on October 27th. And I'm bringing in all my good friends, Josh Hurd, Chris Case, all those, and Stephanie Hutnick from Para Expeditions and all that sort of stuff. They're going to be a part of that, and I'm excited about that.
Wow.
Lots of good things coming.
Absolutely. I wish I was closer to Iowa, man. I'm stuck way over here in Jersey. We're getting rained on from Florence right now.
Oh, and be careful.
Oh, no. Hey, I got through Sandy, so Florence is just, bless her heart, but when she saw Sandy, I was here for Sandy. Mother Nature, you just do not want to mess with her, I'll tell you that. But I love you, my friend, and we're just going to have to get together sometime, do one of those paranormal events. I hope maybe get you down here to Gettysburg or something else. It'd be lovely walking the fields with you, and it's been lovely walking on this journey on this side of the gate with you, my friend. And I know you probably got, practice. You probably came out of practice and everything else, and you got all kinds of things going. I'd love to get you on one night, and we'll just talk some historical ghost stories. As much as you and I love history, that would be a blast. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm totally up for it.
Absolutely. We'll catch you after football season, my friend. Go get 'em. I
All
love you.
right.
I love you, darling.
Love you too.
I really do thank my friend Chuck for being here tonight. Now, that's Charles Anthony. get over there on his Facebook page. He's got a couple of groups. You can connect all in there off of his page. Get those books, $25. You can get both of them. You can get them signed, and that's free shipping within the United States. You can't get a better deal than that. And that's actual page-turning books. So I love to hold a book. I love my Kindle too, and I really like Audible. Every once in a while, I can listen to a book while I'm working. But man, there's something about holding a book and turning the pages. You just can't beat it. So do that. Wonderfully enlightened being. He has been in this. Like I said, he's a football coach. He's a teacher. He's got a master's degree in history, and just so amazing. His knowledge is just, I want to say astronomical, and that's just the word I'm going to use, because when you ask him something, he's going to be down to earth, honest with you. And when he says he cares, he does. He is an amazing ability. He doesn't pull any punches. So I highly recommend him, if you want to connect with him to get a reading, or connect with him just to get watch some of the pop-up Facebook lives he does. I've never seen he can tune into you and your energy so fast. And like I said, he's going to give it to you just like it is. So he's a dear person, and I thank him for being on tonight. Now, a couple of little announcements here. I also want to tell you about another friend of mine. His name is Scotty, the NJ Medium. ScottyTheNJMedium.com. He has been just gracious enough to give my listeners a little bit of a break. So if you use the code Sysco, SYSCO, when you make your appointment with him for your phone reading, he will give you 10% off your first reading. You can go into ScottyTheNJMedium.com, and also on Facebook, Scotty the NJ Medium, and you can connect in with his Facebook Live. I believe he does one on Friday and maybe Sunday night, sometimes back and forth. He does little mini readings, or he'll give you some insight on some things that he's doing, or he might be talking. You never know what he's going to be talking about on those lives, and it's wonderful, free, insightful knowledge. If you're interested in this subject, you need all the different insights that you can possibly get. So these people I'm trying to connect you with are, they are all fantastic in what they do. I wouldn't tell you that if I didn't believe that. So code Sysco, Scotty the NJ Medium, and also on his webpage, something he's done I think is just fantastic. I can't tell you how many times I've had people who say, I have abilities, but I just don't understand them. I don't know what to do with them, and I don't know quite how to wrangle them and get control of them. When you get in there on his webpage, he has all kinds of information on psychic development for free. Okay? You can ask questions. You can get steered in the right direction, or maybe you don't know what direction, so you can get a couple of different ideas and maybe feel what's right for you. So that's in there. Mediumship development as well, grounding, meditations, a lot of different information there. Also, my friend Tammy from Enlightened Angels, also you can find her on Facebook and Etsy shop. She's also putting in a lot of information on that page as well, so you can connect with both of them. So there's some interesting help. You've got my friend Charles Anthony from tonight, and a lot of different directions you can reach out and try to get information that's just right for you. And don't forget code Sysco with Scotty the NJ Medium, because that's going to save you a little bit. And I really appreciate Scott doing that for our listeners here. And also, if you want to help out this podcast is free. It's free all across on all the podcatchers, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, Catchbox, all of the different ones. And also on Conflict Radio. That's on YouTube. And you can find it under Conflict Radio YouTube. And also, there's a new website that Conflict has put up with a lot of fantastic podcasts. This one being one of them that he has chosen, and we're very grateful for that. On his website, conflictradio.net. So you can get all your different videos that way as well, and information, and on his Facebook page. Also, we're getting very busy over here. We are now on Black Swamp Radio. Now, that's found on unknownspirit.com, or you can connect on Black Swamp Radio with Arizona Tramp on Facebook, and you can get all your connections in there. We are involved in that network now, so we're getting played on there with a lot of other podcasts, and it's really neat. It's just, digital radio. We all have a different night, and you can get our archives in there, and you can catch on a lot of fantastic podcasts with my friend Kat Ward on Paranormal Heart. She is also on Conflict. You can get my friend Justin Rimmel. You want to talk about a fantastic history, mystery, whodunits, and what's the real dish on some of these mysteries from history, and different crimes and things like that. Mysterious Circumstances podcast with Justin Rimmel, and he also has a new one called Rev 96. Now that one is creepypastas and horror in your face, just wall to wall stories. Fantastic podcast. You've got my friend Justin Cancelleri with Beyond Reason is on there, and just so many different wonderful podcasts. And there's a shout out to a couple of them. I thank them all, and I'm proud to be in their company in both Conflict Radio and BlackSwampRadio.com. Now, if you want to help out this podcast, and let me tell you something, our little mascot Crispy, he is out there and he's doing his job. He's wonderful. He's that little ghost that's really kind of afraid of ghosts, but he's just a sweet little guy, and he's in and out of everything. And Crispy, I couldn't do it without him. And everybody loves little Crispy. He's our little ghost that's on the logo and in all of our cover art. He is on t-shirts and notebooks and cups and travel cups and posters and stickers, you name it. So get your Crispy on and go over to tpublic.com/user/Sysco, and you can get some stickers for yourself. Fantastic baseball tees. I love those with the long sleeves. You got fall coming. We've got You'd Rather Be Ghost Hunting. We've got Ghosts for People 2 is up. We've got some of our cover art for Monsters and Monsters 2 with Steve Stockton, my good friend. And we've got some wonderful things and some fantastic surprises coming up. We've got some of our reveal from Gettysburg coming up with Keystone State Paranormal Society. And we've got fantastic, spooktacular guests coming up for this spooktacular, I can't even say it, Boo Bash that we're running all the way through Halloween. So we're trying to get you as many fantastic guests and interesting people to come in here and tell you good ghost stories and all kinds of spooky, creepy stuff. It's just fantastic. And I just love you all for being here. I thank you so very much. And if you have your own ghost stories or your own run-ins with the uncanny and you want to contact us here at Journey Through the Gate, you go to journeythroughthegate@gmail.com and send me your stories. If you want to be part of our group, you come to Journey Through the Gate Paranormal Portal Podcast Gatekeepers on Facebook, and just put your membership in there and we'll get you in, and you can talk to all the gatekeepers we have out there. That's all our people. Most of my guests are on there. You can contact them through there. Ask your questions, send in your pictures, whatever you want to do. Is a great discussion group, and that's on Facebook. And I thank you so very much for being with us tonight. And Chuck took us, showed us a little darkness in the light, and then he showed us the light in the darkness, and we really appreciate him for that. And he's just a dear friend, and like I said, he's part of what I call our paranormal chain of help. And I tell you right now, I have called that man several times and asked him advice to help a listener or get somebody that could contact. So, paranormal and supernatural is real. And, when you have abilities and you don't know what to do or something else, you need people who understand, who have been there and found their way out of the issue. And this is quickly becoming a long chain of wonderful people, and I thank them all. And the number one person I thank is you for listening and putting up with the nonsense. And sometimes we have electrical problems and tech issues, and you're right there. And I thank you, dear listener, for being there. And I hope that you'll stick with us in the future and get a hold of some of these surprises and take advantage of some of these deals. And the most important thing is to remember to keep your feet under those covers and keep your closet door shut, because there are things that go bump in the night.